A very good to our live session on our GETI Live Talk platform as a part of hashtag Disruptive Education Movement. I'm your host, Preena Arora, and from last year, and so far we have held more than 1,000 sessions on this platform, an initiative by Dr. Sunita Gandhi with the sole vision to transform education by sharing ideas for change. And we at Getty are committed to teachers' training and professional development to facilitate learning, teaching, and sharing wonderful ideas. Well, I'm back again with another such phenomenal personality with us for this afternoon session, Miss Jwairia Saleem, who is an award winning school transformation specialist and an auditor at Quality Counts in Hyderabad. And with her 25 years of experience in instructional leadership across Indian and international curricular schools, school inspections, assessments, and audits in India and the Middle East. Well, she is passionate about making quality education accessible to all learners and has been nurturing teachers to build learning communities of confident, competent, and inspiring professionals by drawing out the learner in them. And today she will be talking on the topic that is the key to improving teaching and learning. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am, on this platform of Getty. And without much ado, I would request you to please share your thoughts on the topic of the day. Over to you.
Thank you, Preena, for that wonderful introduction. I'm very happy to be here. And yes, it is my passion. And even if one person is able to take away some value and I'm able to add some value to them, then the job is a good job done for me. So today's topic is the key to improvement. And let's start with a little input from the audience, talking about what they think helps school improve, what is their priority, and what really helps schools do better. Just give me a moment. Let me first share my link. I think right. Just a minute, please. Seem to be having some trouble. Yes. Trust technology not to be with you all the time. Right. Okay. There you go. Thankfully. Um, so the question for the audience is, when do schools improve? So you have four options. When there are more resources, like you really go for making a rich investment in smart boards and lovely classrooms, labs, things like that. Or when there is technology, or when we apply a systemic approach, or when you have very highly qualified and very well trained teachers. Now you have option A, B, and C. So quickly in the chat box, pick up one option that you feel really will help schools improve. So Preena, you will have to check in there about the responses that we
Sure,
see.
ma'am.
Yeah, just give me about maybe 10-20 seconds, pick up the responses that are most frequent, and we'll take it up from there. So are there any responses coming?
Well, I don't see any responses so far. Maybe you can continue and
Right,
hopefully they will.
right. So, Preena, I'm losing you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm losing you. I mean, at your end, I think there's some problem with.
Am I audible now?
Yes, but I'm not able to work on the screen. Should we log in and log out again?
Sure, you can try that.
Okay. Is the screen visible now?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am, it's
now,
visible.
right. Now, what normally happens is we assume that when schools are not doing well, this there could be so many problems. But the first thing that we jump at is we assume that what is needed is really a lot of teacher training, hiring good qualified teachers, and retaining them by maybe raising their salaries. So when we do this, we usually assume that good teaching is equivalent to good teachers. And good teachers means they always have to be highly qualified in skills. And when we have those teachers in our systems, there is good learning happening. And some of the solutions that we've tried out is like high salaries, qualified teacher hiring, mass teacher trainings, and the best example that we can take from our own systems, and this happens across the world in several countries, is despite having all of this, we still have the status quo untouched, unchanged. I mean, you continue to have poor performing schools, you continue to have children who do not really learn despite the higher salaries, despite highly qualified teachers. You know that having a government job requires to have a certain qualification, and salaries are pretty high when you especially compare it to private schools. And they have probably one of the best funded CPD systems with what with UNDP and UNICEF and all of those funds coming in for government school trainings. So, what do you think is going wrong? You have qualified teachers, and you have a lot of thought going there into CPD, and yet we see that these things don't resolve themselves. So, now, the objective of today's session is to develop a systemic thinking. Think about what we normally do when we come across a problem. We jump with solutions, and this is what the Carnegie Foundation calls solutionitis. So when we assume that schools are not performing well, we jump to the conclusion that it's the teachers, and we provided so many solutions, gave so much of funding, invested in time, effort, money, and yet it doesn't seem to have a solution to the problem. So by the end of today, you should be able to understand that to solve any problem, we need to develop a systemic way of attacking the problem and not jump with solutions at the drop of a hat. We need to investigate and find the root cause and then collaborate to resolve issues, because usually the issues need a lot of cooperation between different kinds of parts within the system. So now I'll take you on a ride to meet different teachers, and let's meet the first one. She is Isha. She is an environmental enthusiast turned teacher, so very highly qualified in her field, and absolutely fabulous job. She's worked in Cambodia, in Indonesia, on green schools, worked with systems which are absolutely high on recycling. She's built systems in place within schools where the entire school ecosystem is absolutely green and environmental friendly. She's won several awards. And then she comes to this school, and she's absolutely disillusioned, frustrated, not able to do anything that she really wanted. And so there's very little learning happening in her classrooms. She is just waiting her time out for the contract to finish and get out of it. So why do you think this frustration is coming in? So she probably had not thought through where she wanted to work, or she just assumed that a green school in India also meant the same. She feels in the system there's no voice. Even when she wants to come up and do different things, there is no choice offered. There is no time within the timetable in the school, and the school highly focuses on exam-oriented teaching with extra coaching for competitive exams. So that leaves her very frustrated because she's a hands on person. She doesn't believe in exams. So there is a huge chasm between her own belief systems, her values, and her goals in life. Her vision and her mission really does not go well with the with the school. So despite all her qualifications, she's not able to add value to the actual place where her value is needed, and that is the student learning. Now, the next teacher is Sana. Now, Sana is a young mother. She has recently hooked on to reading a lot on how to raise children, how children learn best, and how good exploration and how stimulating early years stimulation is so important, and it sets the pace for learning in the later years. So here she is wanting to try out play-based instruction, but when she comes to her place of work, it's a franchisee system. They have a strict syllabus, they have given activities, and even though she has taken the onus of collecting resources, gathering all the material that she needs for exploration, setting up her classroom, there is very little appreciation, acknowledgement, or even a green signal for her to move ahead with what she wants to do, because everybody around her feel that it's a waste of resources, waste of time, and then she is disrupting the whole system within the school, because the others, her colleagues, also do not take it well. If she does something, then they feel that she's trying to show off, and it doesn't sit well with a lot of senior teachers. So now here she is, young, enthusiastic, knowledgeable, qualified, skilled, and could do so much to add value and improve the system within the school. But then she is met with a lot of resistance, maybe poor HR policies, a lack of empathy, cutthroat competition, that spirit of sharing is non-existent. So here again is another example where you see high qualification, high skill does not exactly translate to good learning for the students. Now here is a third teacher, Sonam, and Sonam is very passionate about technology. She's recently learned a lot of apps that she wants to use, and she's realized that student independence and self in independent research is really important. So she got this idea of creating portfolios and got her students to do some wonderful presentations. Now, when her students created these projects, these were picked up and selected for some competition, and very soon, when everybody around the school heard about this, a senior teacher was asked to represent the school, take the students, leaving her very, very depressed. Her spirits dampened, and she felt that no matter how hard she worked, just because she was ad hoc, just because she was not trained, she didn't have a B.Ed degree, whatever value she adds to school is not going to be really appreciated or even acknowledged. So here again is one low-spirited teacher. Despite her enthusiasm when she started, she is not able to add that kind of value to the student learning. Now here is Tina. Now, Tina is caring, affectionate, a very senior teacher. She has this very special place for children. She just loves them and is very concerned about their well-being, even beyond the academic work. So when she realizes that a lot of girls from 8th grade are being absent, not just coming to school, there's some leave letter which makes no sense, she started probing the issue. She got in touch with the parents, spoke to the different children, and it so happened that the issue has nothing to do with the teacher or teaching or academic. It was just a basic issue of management of the infrastructure of facilities. The bathrooms did not have latches. There was no dustbin for the girls to dispose of their napkins, and the napkin dispenser was also not working. She, of course, approached the admin, and the admin did not take very well to her suggestions. Although she solved the problem, the matter was escalated. She was served a memo for interfering. Some kind of, a story was cooked up, and she was so frustrated that she had to resign. Now, a lot of colleagues did not empathize with her, did not stand up for her. She said, "Oh, she had it coming. Um, she should have done just what she's paid for. She's paid for teaching, so she should teach. Why she bothered about other things?" But Tina understood that it is so important that you create an environment which is necessary. You remember the Maslow's theory? Physical, emotional, social needs come before the cognitive needs are met. Before you have those aha moments, your mind should be clutter free. You should be fully satisfied with your basic needs. And that's what she felt as a teacher. But the system did not allow it. And so here again, we lose a very good teacher who could actually help children improve. She had to leave the system. Now, I'm sure a lot of these stories would resonate with some of the audience, if not all, I hope. Um, and This one is our last teacher, Zara. Brilliant. She teaches science, and when we talked about STEM, she was all with STEM. Then it became STEAM, and then she's full steam now with STREAM. So she was really managing to make a lot of difference until recently, when her workload, her 8 periods were reduced to just 5, and even in the 5, she had full attendance only with 4 classes, because one period was assigned to Internet of Things and AI, one to robotics, one to coding, and a few students who opted for AR and VR lessons couldn't attend on Wednesdays. So she's just pulling her hair. How in the world is she going to get those 21st century skills across with just 5 periods in her kitty? Her argument is, why do children even need these programs, these additional top ups? Her idea is that our curriculum is so well framed. Whatever new learning, whatever 21st century skills we need to impart our children, they need to be woven into the subjects. They can be taught as a subject because the curriculum is just a vehicle. But currently, this is what our curriculum looks like: a mash, a hash, and something that is like pizza topping. You keep on adding the toppings until you lose the base. And she's very unhappy because, well, it doesn't really bode well for anyone, because according to the Future of Job reports from the World Economic Forum, these are the top 10 skills in 2020. And none of this really talks about specific programs, but these are skills you develop by embedding opportunities for developing these across any curriculum with any subjects. So you really don't need additional top ups. That's what Tina felt. But sadly, the management felt that they had to satisfy the parents. And so, to be a good school, an international school, a high quality school, it's important that they offered all this. Another issue Tina had was, if we do offer all these, and these are optionals because a lot of children can't afford that, so are we really increasing the chasm between what is accessible to children? Is this an equitable education that we are providing? So now these were some of the best qualified, enthusiastic, passionate teachers who had it in them to really make a difference to the lives of many children under their control, put in their care, and they could have done the job. So you see, we come to a point where qualifications and lots of skills, passion, it doesn't always translate into good and effective learning. It's about the amount of teacher effort they put that translates to good learning. And when high teachers are high performing teachers, teachers who really are capable of making that difference, that few high performing teachers, when they were questioned in a study across hundreds of schools in Philippines, what came across was that every high ability, high skilled, and highly qualified teacher is not able to make that kind of effort. because what they need and what motivates them to make that effort that translates into good learning is having a safe environment, being able to speak their mind, being respected and valued, when they have good relationship with their colleagues. And I'm sure if some of you are teachers, and you will know that if in a staff meeting somebody has a duty to be allotted and somebody's name is called, say, okay, I want this job to be done, Radhika, will you do it? Then ask Radhika how she feels at that moment. I'm sure that it is so much more than any monetary award or fringe benefit or a salary raise. When in public, allotting her that assigned task or giving her a special duty translates into the leadership accepting, endorsing, acknowledging her ability and trusting her and being confident that she will be able to do it well. So these are things that matter most to teachers, that they are thought of as capable, that they are allowed opportunities to show that capacity to improve and make a difference. And when they do make a mistake, while praise in public is good, they would, I mean, all of us make mistakes at any level, whether it's teachers, leaders, we all make mistakes. But then when we do that, it's we expect the other person to be kind and to tell us in private that this is the mistake. And then when it is done in this manner, you really begin to think how you can rectify the mistake, how you can contain the damage, how you can undo the damage if possible. But when this kind of a supervision is absent, when you are pulled up in public for things, then you just lose the motivation to do. And you also are very fearful of trying out something new, because if it fails, then you're in for trouble, you're in hot water. So any effort that teachers make depends a lot on other factors like these, which we call a school culture. It has to be a culture that is safe, where people are respected, people share good relationships, and people are confident to talk about, what they think, their opinions, their ideas. They feel free to try out new things and take the risk of failure, because maybe they will succeed, and that will be worth it. So, what are the factors actually? We have seen the 4 5 teachers, which exemplify to us the different ways in which their capacities did not lead to fruition, did not really lead to effective learning. So, what are the factors, if we can summarize? The shared vision and purpose. You remember Isha? She just did not have the same vision and the purpose as the school had. And so they fell apart, and it was frustrating for Isha, which did not allow her to make that effort, which helped the students learn better. Teachers' attitudes, beliefs are as important as competencies. A very high qualified teacher, but if she has a belief that children are like buckets that need to be filled, and if she has preconceived ideas and notions about a certain set of children not doing well, or they can't do well, so it's a given. A lot of research shows that children do really well when you have set high standards for them. So if you have high expectations of students, they live up to that expectation and never let you down. And this is a belief that teachers should have, no matter what others may say about it, no matter what the child's previous report says. It is always nice to know your students, but then set very high expectations for them, and expectations with support. You can't have unrealistic expectations without support and then let them fail. So it's like setting them for failure. So teachers' attitudes and beliefs about the nature of learning, about the ideas that they have about students' individual capacities and how they can be helped to learn better. All this matters perhaps a little more than competencies, because if the teacher is really driven, if she's really concerned about making things work for the students, then she will equip herself with the skills and competencies. It usually happens that way. When I remember back years back, maybe around 20 years ago, when I had a student and I really wanted to help the student, I, started my learning journey on learning disabilities. And I really helped this. And while helping the children, I grew as a person. I learned so much more about techniques and strategies on how to make children with dyslexia read. So while we attach so much importance to qualifications and skills that are there at the moment, I think it's the teacher's attitude and beliefs which allow them to grow and develop more competencies, acquire qualifications, because after all, teachers are lifelong learners and there is nothing stopping them from getting those qualifications if they feel the need to. So perhaps more important in teacher training is to address these issues of belief systems and attitudes. And with all of the attitude, all of the belief, all of the competencies, if there's a lack of work culture that allows them the freedom to try out what they want, if they lack supportive relationships, whether with colleagues or with their leaders, then it doesn't really translate into good learning for the students. Another key element that I feel all teachers, particularly today with the environment outside the schools changing so rapidly, it's exponential transformation at every area of our lives. I think it's very important that teachers know the difference between curriculum and syllabus. Curriculum is far more expansive, it's broad, it's varied, and teachers should be able to have an eye on the future of jobs and make sure that they revise the curriculum, design it, and implement it in a way that will ensure the development of skills and competencies that these children will need in their lives and in their workplace. Resources, infrastructure, policies, all of these are important. And while a lot of us already are aware of infrastructure and resources, probably we don't really think about policies and SOPs, but that's really important to have them in place so that they are not people dependent, but they're system dependent. So even if people move out of the system, if there is an SOP, everybody knows how to do things right. Leadership in governance is again plays a very key role, because if you have a strong leadership in governance, then they ensure that whenever a new teacher joins, there is shared vision, the purpose is talked about again and again and reviewed, and they provide all that is needed to help the teacher translate her abilities and make that effort to achieve a good learning for the students. And another key, and the last one perhaps, is the links we have with parents in communities. There's a lot of time when I remember an instant about, early days in 2000s when we started flip teaching. It wasn't really talked about, and not many people knew about it. But when we started that and independent projects and flip learning, where the teacher was sending material and they would do hands-on differentiated activities in the classroom, a lot of parents came and said, your teachers are becoming very slack. They don't want to do their job. They don't want to teach. They're sending videos home and asking the children to do it on their own. Why are we sending them to the teacher? So that's when, it hit me that probably before you initiate any change, you must talk to all the stakeholders so they know why we need to make that change and why we are doing it and what are the benefits. So when parents and community is also spoken to about the changes that we are making, they're more receptive to the idea, they're more welcoming the idea, and a lot of times they actually help you achieve that change faster and better. So the answer to our first question, which was, what is the key to school improvement? It is looking at school improvement not just as dependent on teacher training or teacher upskilling, but it's a very systematic approach to develop an ecosystem. So you develop all areas of that ecosystem, whether they're material or human or cultural, and because these complement each other, and these are the ways in which we can be assured that whatever changes we introduce for improvement, they are actually impactful and they really help the children do better, because at the end, our business as schools and in education is to help students do better. It's to help students achieve in a manner that they have a smooth transition into the world of work and in their lives. So if we are able to do that, then we would need a whole lot more than just teacher training and upskilling and technology, because that's where we usually jump to. So, for takeaway for teachers here is when you as a teacher apply to a school, then if you're flexible, then try to understand the vision of the school, align it to your own work. If you feel that the vision is something that you can adapt and align to easily, then that's the place for you to go. Because don't just settle for a high salary. Don't go to a school because it's offering you very good fringe benefits, because these are short term gains for you. But eventually, when you settle down and the euphoria of the high salary and the fringe benefit dies down, there is a deep void there, and it begins to pinch you, and you won't be happy, and you won't be able to translate all your qualifications into hardcore practice. And that's what's the only thing that makes a difference to the students. And know your students well. It's so important to know what the home background is, what's the style of learning, how does your child, does he have any blocks, what is his entry level. So if you're starting a lesson, has he got the fundamentals for learning that lesson? Is he receptive? Or is there something happening at home that's not allowing him to be receptive to your teaching? So helping your students know really well allows you to have those bridges with parents and community and pull out your support from your colleagues and peers. And you can know your students not just alone, but through interacting with so many other people in the school ecosystem. And I think the key for everyone, not just students, but leaders and teachers, is to have a growth mindset. You need to keep growing, because if we don't, then you stagnate and you've lost the race already. So developing a growth mindset would mean that you're not averse to taking failures, because you don't see them as something negative. You see that if I fail this time, then reflect on why you failed, improve on it, and you keep growing. And this attitude will be very well modeled to your students, who will latch on to it because they see it in you and they see it succeed, and it makes you the kind of person you are: progressive, very positive, and all the time trying out new things. And that's something that inspires students and everybody around you. So that's something that one should really work at very consciously. And these are skills that you can consciously develop over time, even if you don't have them now. And share what you know. So once you have the growth mindset and you're really not too competitive, then you learn to collaborate, because you know that when you're building bridges with other people, it's a give and take relationship. Earlier, when I think it was around 2010 when we started this whole mentoring and coaching process in our school. And the idea of teachers sitting in each other's classrooms was so horrifying to everybody. They just said, no, that cannot be. I mean, what if I make a mistake? But then when the mindsets are changed, then I've had, within a span of 12 to 18 months, I've had teachers come and request people and say, okay, guys, in the fifth period today, will you all come over and see, I'm trying out a new thing and I would like your feedback. Now that happens, that kind of a culture of sharing and growing together, it happens only if we learn to give feedback. It doesn't happen in a day. It does takes a little bit of time, but giving feedback is an art, and there's so many things that you have to consider. It's if you started new, then it's very quick for us to give critical feedback that with negatives first. So one of the key things that you need to remember is to say the positives first, and then instead of framing the negatives or areas for improvement, say, how do you think it would be if you did this? And well, perhaps you should try this. So these are more suggestive and is given in a very pleasant manner, and it doesn't hurt the other person because they don't see it as a personal criticism. So for teachers, it's so important to learn to give feedback. And when you're giving feedback and you've overcome that, horror of seeking critical feedback from colleagues, then you also begin to transmit that kind of an attitude to your colleagues, where one find a very quiet, a very submissive kind of a teacher will also feel the courage to speak up and say, yeah, please come in and watch me teach. So networking, again, this what we talked about was within the school, but then thanks to Zoom and thanks to the pandemic, the one very positive development that has come in education is our ability and the openness to network with a whole lot of people, sometimes even crossing geographic boundaries. So network, if supposing some of us are in an environment in our own ecosystem which is not very proactive, which does not really encourage sharing and caring and supporting you in your growth, then it's a really silver lining on the cloud for you, because now you can network with somebody outside of your school and join a professional learning community. Don't stop your growth just because your immediate environment is not yet ready. It will be. Give a little more time and it will be. So we don't give up hope, but at the same time, we don't limit our own growth. We network outside of the school, join a professional learning community, because that's the way to go for the future. And while doing all this, it's so important to balance our work and life. We all are human beings and we all have families, we all have emotions, we all have social commitments. So we need to really learn to work, around balancing both our professional commitments and our personal lives, because we don't want teachers to burn out. You're so precious. We really want you to be there for us for much, much longer. And the takeaway for leaders is, normally we assume that everybody knows the vision. It's there on the school diary. It's there on the web page. It's there in every document. It's there posted on notice boards. But honestly, not very many people read it. So I think it's a conscious exercise on the part of leadership. And when I speak of leadership, I'm not just talking about governors and school principals or headmistresses. I mean leaders in all levels of the school. There could be a grade level leader. It could be, for all that, for practically speaking, every teacher is a leader because she leads her class. So every leader must make a conscious effort to communicate and talk about the vision, reflect on it, and see whether we are all the time staying focused in achieving it, or have we digressed, have we really sidetracked ourselves. It's so important to do that, so that later on there is not a misalignment which does not really lead us to our long-term goals. And we need to share our expectations. Plenty of times we assume teachers know what to be done. You have a different expectation. The teacher has a different expectation. She feels that she's done a good job. You feel that that's not what's good enough for you. So I think when a task is assigned, then very clear SOPs for doing that task, share clear expectations of what the end result should look like, and it's also important, at the bottom, you know, the business of school is classroom teaching. So when we talk about good teaching, I don't very often see leaders and teachers discuss what good teaching looks like. So if I walk into a classroom, what should good teaching look like? What should children be doing? What should the teacher be doing? What should be there on the walls? What should be there on the whiteboard? If the children are using media, what kind of media? Why are they using it? Do they know how to use media? So all these expectations, when shared expectation is almost like goal setting for the immediate classrooms. And that really helps to stay focused and on task and to deliver quality. Delegate work with specific guidelines and deadlines, and uh, very often we are so engrossed in our day-to-day business that we lose track of, the larger scheme of things. So listen actively to what the teachers are saying. Maybe they're not very vocal, so you need learn to read in between the lines, understand and be empathetic to their needs. Well, you see a brilliant teacher, she's a young mother. there might be times when she might have arrived a little late. No, let's not be very, strict and firm about, yes, rules are important, but sometimes we need to be empathetic and say, okay, make allowances for genuine people, because that's the one thing that makes people loyal to the school and to its ideology. That's what contributes to a very safe and happy work culture. And when there is success, yes, we all celebrate together. But when there is a failure, let's join the band and take collective responsibility, because somewhere in the failure, all of us are party to it. Maybe because we did not really set good expectations, maybe we did not provide what was required. So somewhere, let's take accountability for what does not go well as well, and put policies and processes in place, clarify, let it be transparent, connect with all the stakeholders, and connecting with stakeholders has to be done mindfully, and then with a genuineness of intention. So when we say things, it's not lip service, we really mean it. So if you're saying we're concerned about children and their safety, then it really has to have that meaning, and not just in terms of having a system and a protocol. The child reaches home, a call goes, a direct SMS goes. Yes, a direct SMS is a part of the system, but then what really wins the hearts of parents is when a call is made, and maybe you know that the child is absent because she was hospitalized, but then maybe a day or two later, a get well card, a very socially acceptable way of sending things from the children. Let's not impose on it as a rule, but what I'm trying to say here is there are things that you can do beyond the protocol, much beyond the SOPs of the school, that really builds those bonds with our parents, our students, and the larger community. And that's something that we should be looking at. So, Preena, do we have any questions in the chat box?
Uh, Not really, ma'am. I think it was
Huh?
fantastic. We don't have any questions so far,
Right,
but
right. So,
overall, I yes, ma'am. So I think
um,
it was a fab session along with Miss Jwairia. I think we met four five more teachers with us, Miss Sonam, Miss Zara, Miss Isha, and Miss Tina. As you
right,
explained how the teachers join, and then everybody, each of them has some of the other quality and abilities. They do play. They are the forefronts of students' educational life. If you talk about the teachers,
true.
they are very much
Yes,
important. The success of a student is very much dependent upon them, uh, because they are in continuous contact. And
absolutely.
as teaching and learning is an integrated process, I think good teaching methods and techniques actually will help students to learn things faster. That's what it happens, and
Definitely.
that's how it works.
Right, right.
And
I mean, that's a given. That's a
and
given that
students,
you need to have that
yes,
qualification and skills. But then that's not the only thing. Today's session
absolutely,
was all about why you have the qualifications and skills. What is it that prevents you
right,
from making that impact the student learning?
right. And you talked about the ideas, where the teachers can be more effective with their teaching strategies. They need to align with the school, as you said. Mindset plays a very important role here. I think when we are doing something and we are enjoying our work, I think that's the key to success.
Absolutely.
If we are happy doing
Yes.
something,
Right.
that it takes us anywhere we want to. And if we are doing it
Yes.
forcefully, if things are imposed on us, I think it's of no use. You're just doing it for the sake of doing the job, and it's not
There's
going
no
to give you
ownership
any
there.
results.
Yes.
So if at all,
Right.
yes, the ownership. So if at all people they join this profession, or somehow with any reason, maybe after joining they can decide that how important they are,
Absolutely.
what important role they
Yes.
play in their lives.
Mm.
And connecting with students is important. if you are connected with students, they get to know about where they are lacking behind, where they need to put in more efforts, and instant feedback is needed. We should give instant feedback. And you also
Yes.
talked about the balanced work life, about the teachers. I think, don't you think so? They play too many roles altogether, and somewhere it becomes
Absolutely.
difficult for them to
Yes.
manage.
Yes, yes, that is where Preena, it's so important to have that ecosystem and that culture. You know, we are still stuck in that competitive world where if I have to do something,
Right.
I have to do it myself and I have to hide it, cover it up. But if you have that openness of culture, when I'm really tired, I can always reflect, you know, request a colleague to fill in.
Hmm.
Delegation from the leaders say, oh, I have to do this myself. They really don't. I mean, once you have developed a team and you have upskilled them, then trust them to carry on your legacy. So it can be a relief for you as well while it is training for the teacher themselves. So that culture really helps take away a lot
Right.
of load and pressure that people feel. The stress comes from the fact that there is a huge stake attached to how you do your work, and whether you're going to be reprimanded if you fail, or all that doesn't happen when the school ecosystem is very well open to learning, to change. And a lot of times, you know, the kind of, if you actually make a list of what stresses out for the teachers. When I did that first exercise, they said, oh, corrections, particularly English teachers. They said, oh, corrections are so huge. It gives me spondylosis. I have a backache and I sit up all night correcting. I said, yeah, but what's the purpose of correction? Why do we correct books? What do you do? If you're only filling it with ink, red marks, giving them marks, then I don't think that's the
Yeah.
purpose of correction. When you correct a book, what you're doing is assessing what the child needs for the next steps. And if you're
Right.
spending 4 hours marking a book with red ink and giving them a grade or some marks, it doesn't really serve the purpose. So if your purpose is clear, then what you're doing is not required. So probably you should distribute all the notebooks and give your exemplar questions or answers on the board and ask the children to reflect where they have gone wrong. Takes the way,
Hmm.
the correction load off and
Yes.
serves the purpose. So many times when we talk about, this extra work that we have, we really need to think. You remember the solutionitis? We don't jump into the conclusion and say, okay, this is the problem. We can't do, in a school without corrections. That's not the point. The point is, what's the purpose of correction? If it is assessing students and the teacher's own ability to transfer what she has wanting to transfer in terms of her objectives,
Yes.
then don't you think self and peer correction, group correction, self editing using a checklist or a rubric, that's more impactful because it will help the child learn. It will save you your 4 hours of
That's
correcting
the
work,
goal.
no
Right.
spondylosis. Yes. So it's all about thinking about where the stress is coming from and how you can meaningfully resolve the issue. Hello,
Well,
are you there, Prina?
that was in the. Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Just lost you in the middle, but now it's fine, I
I
think.
I think there is some network problem.
Yes,
But
yes.
overall, I think finally we somehow managed to complete the session. It was too good. I
Yes.
thoroughly enjoyed with the tips and idea behind this,
I
about the
would have loved a
purpose
little
that
more
we've discussed
interaction.
about. Sure, ma'am. I think we will definitely connect again uh, very soon with you
Sure,
to talk on something more interesting, and definitely we'll keep more scope for the time. We will connect for sure. And
sure, sure.
thank you. I would like to say thanks a lot to you for
My pleasure.
encouraging teachers out there, to the entire education fraternity, and giving tips to the leaders as well, the takeaways for the leaders, for the teachers, how they can, all together bring this change, the positive change that is much needed. And teachers can definitely connect with their students. They feel connected, The teachers can communicate with the students to provide positive feedback, and if any improvement is needed, that's for sure. And this will help them understand the areas which need a lot of efforts. And yeah, teachers should become a role model. That's what we feel, because they spend most of their time with them. So definitely they should uh, keep going, keep learning and upskilling themselves. So thank you so much, ma'am. It was a very insightful session.
Thank you. Thank you. My
And a
pleasure.
big thanks on behalf of the entire team.
So thank you very much,
And
audience, for being there,
all the
even though
viewers,
you were passively
please.
listening. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes, Preena, you were saying
Yes,
something?
ma'am. So
Yeah.
I think all the viewers, I would request you to please share this video. I think there is some network connective issue. Okay, ma'am. I think we will wrap it up here. Thank you so much for
Right.
joining us. Thanks
Good
once again.
day and happy improving, everybody, all the viewers.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am. Same
you.
to you. Take care.
Thank you.